This is Madia-as Digdigan Buenaflor, extending an invitation to each and every one of you everywhere, as my way of commemorating the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. I will read and serialize my novel, The Blood of Three, starting on Tuesday, August 27, and continuing episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Follow the drama on my YouTube channel. May we forever exhale and inhale love and peace. At the Japanese barracks, Colonel Mamoto had lost his patience with the very uncooperative American lieutenant. Walter had been so weakened by the torture he was subjected to that he could no longer look up from where he was sprawled on the filthy, bloody pool on the cold, stony floor. During the several hours of torture, of continuous and grueling interrogation and torture, Lieutenant Walter had steadfastly maintained his silence, but he was so weak he could no longer lift his head. Sergeant Mamoto found this a good opening for him. He grinned, confident that this time he will succeed. He had drained the prisoners' resistance. Just tell me the location and day of landing of General MacArthur's forces in Luzon, and you're free. Walter looked blankly at Sergeant Mamoto through his half-opened eyes, then turned slightly to one side, his jaws clenched with rage. Come on, just the day and the place, and you will live happily ever after. He mocked him. This time Sergeant Mamoto bent down and held the hair of the American. Now talk. You'll never get what you want from me. Fool! Sergeant Mamoto pushed the lieutenant's head and stood and kicked him on the head. You'll die, moron! And he kicked him again and again as more blood came pouring out of his mouth. You'll never win a war through your filthy barbaric tactic, you son of a bitch. In spite of his condition, Walter managed to spit out in gasping yet unfaltering words his rage inside. You can't win this war through your treachery. Infuriated, Sergeant Mamoto humiliated him further by spitting on his face. You deserve that, stubborn American. In our prisons, we care and protect our prisoners much more, an officer. There was a marked sadness in Walter's dry voice. You talk too much. Sergeant Mamoto pulled out his bayonet and raised it before the American lieutenant. This will shut you up. He plunged the bayonet through his body. Stop it! The powerful voice made Sergeant Mamoto freeze in place, but the bayonet's blade had already landed on its mark through Lieutenant Walter's heart. The voice came from Colonel Hiroshi, who had just entered the cell. Sergeant Mamoto pulled out his bayonet, blood dripping from its shiny tip. He bowed and simultaneously brought his feet together, the bayonet by his side. Lieutenant Walter was now gasping, his wound spitting out blood. Upon seeing the colonel through his half-closed eyes, he opened his mouth with great effort. He did not beg for his life or invoke his captor's mercy. Colonel, I thought we are fighting a civilized war. Is this your idea of war? Your treatment of your POW? Haven't you heard of the Geneva Convention? He coughed. My regret in dying in your hands is that we Americans all this time treated our prisoners with respect, decency, and kindness. The lieutenant failed to finish his line. Colonel Hiroshi was dumbfounded, for the American spoke the truth. Fetch the doctor, he ordered. It's too late for that. Lieutenant Walter finally closed his eyes. At last, he won over his agony. He was faithful to his duty, and he did it his way. Colonel Hiroshi stood transfixed before the dead enemy, realizing what this one American's death would mean for him. Japan may win this war, but in Colonel Hiroshi's conscience would forever live this one big mistake, the death of his prisoner of war. He just now realized that he was not the only commanding officer who shall suffer that guilt for the mistakes and arrogance of every sergeant and corporal under their command. He bent to get the identification tag of the dead American. He stared at it, and hoped to send the tag back to the American's family if he was lucky to survive this war. "Give him a decent burial," he addressed the guard. "Follow me to the office, Sergeant." The colonel walked out, his mind heavy with the great burden of guilt for the American's death. Deason had reached the guerrilla camp after taking a quick swim in the creek. Now he could breathe. Rudy was out of the way. He went straight to their hut and fell asleep the moment he hit the bed, but not for long. He was awakened by the familiar dull sound of the mess call for supper. Rudy, he sucked in. His last look haunted him. If Rudy made it back, then he was in trouble. He jumped up and looked out the door. The mess boy was there all right, but it was not Rudy. It was his assistant. Deason exhaled. Suddenly he felt the pang of hunger, but he did not want just now to join the group or partake of the food. It would surely remind him of Rudy. He took off his pistol and put it above his head as he lay down on the bamboo bench. He stretched his aching muscles, his two arms crossed above his head. It had been a most trying day, from his frustration at Colonel Roche's decision ordering him back to the guerrilla camp, to the dagger look of Pedro which seemed to penetrate his being, and the mocking grin of Rudy even in death. That last scene would always remain in his mind, forever fresh and vivid. Deason forced himself to sleep just so he would free himself from the haunting sin, and eventually he succeeded, for his tired muscles have really taken a punishment. The men were now scattered beneath the trees, feasting on the very scanty food prepared that evening. Ernesto could not eat. Something was bothering him. Not hungry, Cap? It was Joe who joined Ernesto, his coconut shell almost empty by now. Ernesto just shook his head. "A penny for your thought. It's our men I'm worried about. Those I left back in town to find out the fate of Lieutenant Walter. You know, Cap, something is really fishy around here." "What do you mean, Joe?" Ernesto faced Joe squarely, searching the face of the young American for an answer. "Oh, the several incidents which have happened here recently. The alertness of the Japanese in town every time we have our men there. Their seeming preparedness today. Just thinking, you know. Well, must be the presence of someone, maybe a Jap contact." "Joe," Ernesto brightened up, "what do you really mean?" "Well, I saw someone suspicious movements, you know." "Lieutenant Deason?" Ernesto wanted the confirmation of his doubts too. He knew he could trust Joe. They had been close friends since they got together. "There you are, that's the man. Well, it's not just the incident last night. I had been observing him. He really pokes his nose around. I don't mean just twice or thrice. But we can't just point our finger at him. We will soon, you'll see." Joe gulped down the remaining thin broth from the coconut shell. Captain Duran, the frantic call came from a guerrilla carrying on his shoulder the limp body of a man. "Hey, Cap, look!" Joe pointed at the men around the new arrival. Ernesto rushed with Joe to the crowd. "Why, it's Rudy!" Ernesto gasped as soon as the body of Rudy was laid on the ground. Ernesto bent and listened to his heart, but there was no movement. "He's dead," he murmured. 3 bullet holes riddled his body. Ernesto was quiet, but his mind was busy. Now this was something concrete. He was sure Deason must have something to do with Rudy's death, for it was he who assigned Rudy to follow Deason that day. If Deason killed Rudy, it must have been to hide an important secret. Ernesto's eyes were burning with hate as he gazed at their hut. "Traitor," he murmured to himself. "Any news about Jimmy?" There was anxiety in Lieutenant Moore's voice as he struggled through the crowd. It was only then that Ernesto remembered the assignment he gave his men. "What's the news about Lieutenant Walter?" Ernesto addressed the 2 guerrillas who had brought Rudy back. "He was captured by the Japanese, sir, and brought to the garrison," reported one of the guerrillas. Oh no, Ernesto closed his eyes as if shutting out the thought of the tortures which the unfortunate American must surely be undergoing. "I'm sorry, Lieutenant Moore, but there was nothing we can do now." He sadly shook his head and patted Lieutenant Moore on the shoulder. "Well," Lieutenant Moore sighed. Jimmy's family sure would be proud of him. Lieutenant Moore turned to Joe. Let's send a message to headquarters, Joe. The brutes, let me lay hands on those Japs. Joe struck his right fist against his open left palm. Just give me the chance. Let's go, Joe. Lieutenant Moore cajoled Joe to go back to the communication hut. Prepare a grave for Rudy. Ernesto gave the order to the guerrillas, then walked to his hut, his mind in a whirlpool of anger and suspicion. From the crowd, Tommy Mart emerged to do his job, one more dog taco for him to collect. He would miss Rudy, the one bright son who could make him laugh. Ernesto pushed the door to his hut. He found Dizon there, very sound asleep. With a sharp, piercing look, he stared down at him, trying hard to control himself from pouring his wrath on him. Then, seeing Dizon's postal lying just above his head, he picked it up and smelled its barrel. The barrel smelled of gunpowder. It had been fired recently. Without missing a beat, he pulled out his magazine and found 3 bullets missing. But of course, he could not use it earlier that morning during the cover operation. Ernesto reasoned himself. But they were supposed to use the rifles. There was no need really for the use of his pistol, unless he ran out of bullets in his rifle. Just the same, it was highly suspicious. The number of missing bullets coincided perfectly with the ones in Rudy's body. Ernesto instinctively pointed a pistol at Dizon, and the urge to pull the trigger was very tempting. Breathing deeply, he returned the pistol. The sound of the pistol striking against the bamboo bench woke up Dizon. Upon seeing Ernesto looking down at him, Dizon rose with a quizzical look. He sensed the seriousness on Ernesto's face, but tried to hide his anxiety. He composed himself and very casually broke the very uncomfortable silence. I must have overslept. He stretched his arms high. You were out the whole afternoon, Lieutenant Dizon. Where were you? I was out to the creek for a swim. After our operation this morning, I needed to unwind. And it took you the whole afternoon? There was still a suspicious expression on Ernesto's face. I took my time, sir. Of course, you don't mind your men resting for a while after harrowing experience this morning. There was a skepticism in Dizon's voice. Not if they follow regulation. I can't remember going against any regulation here, sir, unless swimming is one. You fired your pistol. Ernesto was searching. Oh, that. Ernesto grinned. Dizon grinned, looking very relaxed, but could already feel the heat rapidly building up in him. I shot a wild pig, sir. I missed it. It would have been a real good feast for all of us. 3 times? Yes, 3 times, sir. Next time, use your bullets only when necessary. Ernesto means business, and his frustration could no longer be hidden from his face. Without waiting for an answer from Dizon, he walked out. That was a close call. Dizon wiped the perspiration dripping from his eyebrows. That's all for today, to be continued on Tuesdays and Thursdays. May we all forever exhale and inhale love and peace. Thanks for being with me today. I hope you will inspire me with a like, share, and subscribe.